Matala. 2009. Un cyclone passe, l'école tombe, Haïtien campé, Haïti pas crasé. Nous n'en faisons noir, nous pas capables, nous still gagnons l'espoir. Haïti pas crasé. Pas crasé.
It has been 5 days since an earthquake devastated the tiny island nation of Haiti, and rescue workers have continued working around the clock to find more survivors. This UN video provided to SalemNews.com shows the extensive damage in Haiti that has left many areas inaccessible to rescue and aid workers. The tension is high, but it isn't without reason. Hard work led to this success today in Canapé Vert, a neighborhood in Port-au-Prince.
Here. Come on. Just hand it over.
Yesterday, 16 January, international rescue workers made 13 more live rescues, bringing the total to 71 people.
Take off. On the speed. Pick them up. 1, 2, 3. That's right. It's out.
That's 71 among tens of thousands. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported a small number of additional rescues made today, but information on possible survivors appears to be dwindling. And the rescued victims are not all people, as this video shows. UN rescue workers say most of the worst affected areas of Port-au-Prince have been searched by the 43 international search and rescue teams, with just over 1,700 rescue workers and 161 dogs. Aid workers from the Dominican Republic, under the watchful eye of Peruvian peacekeepers, carried on a food distribution today, 1 week since a terrifying earthquake struck the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince. Men, women, and children lined up in an orderly fashion to receive these food rations delivered by land from the neighboring Dominican Republic, which was largely unaffected by the 7.0 seismic movement that devastated Port-au-Prince.
El gobierno dominicano está asistiendo aquí con 10 camiones de comida diario, alrededor de 25-30 mil raciones de comida diaria.
Dominican aid was the first to arrive after the earthquake hit last Tuesday and has been steadily flowing into crowds that are so desperate for help. The aid includes mobile kitchens and food rations, as well as heavy machinery and medical aid. Many of the injured have been transported to hospitals in the Dominican Republic. The outpouring of aid has helped ease historical tensions that date back to colonial times here between these two nations that share the Caribbean island of Hispaniola.
Port-au-Prince continued to experience a mass exodus today, 20 January, as Haitians left the capital for other provinces in search of food, shelter, and security. In the capital, there is an increasing lack of food, water, loss of jobs, destruction, medical care, and a growing threat of crime and insecurity. One resident in Port-au-Prince, Saint Ang, was seen fleeing to Cap Haitian, some 83 miles away from the capital. He said that many parents who have lost their jobs do not know what to do anymore.
surtout l'école yo crasé et nous mêmes parents nous pas comme ça pour nous faire pas un travail nous camper bon qui donc n'attend.
Trucks have started transporting groups of people numbering between 100 to 150 to the village of Camp Perrin every day. Nearly 1,000 have left Port-au-Prince to the village about 4 hours away in the last week. Marie-Yves Chillon, another Port-au-Prince resident fleeing to Cays, looked forward to fresh air instead of the stench of destruction and death flooding the streets of the capital. The exodus began shortly after the earthquake a week ago. Haitian and Dominican authorities as well as aid agencies are welcoming the move to other provinces. And every day more families in battered Port-au-Prince are making the same decision. While hundreds of thousands of people leave the capital, aid agencies such as the International Organization for Migration and the UN Refugee Agency are setting up temporary shelters and tents to accommodate the population displaced by the earthquake.
Search and rescue workers continued through the early hours of Wednesday morning to rescue a 25-year-old woman from the ruins of a collapsed market in Port-au-Prince.
We are here in Asia, in a supermarket. We are trying to pick up a lady who is alive after 7 days underground. We arrived about 12 o'clock and the Haitian people rescue team was already on the site, and we asked if they would like to have some help.
4 urban search and rescue teams from France, Turkey, Haiti, and the United States worked together to save a woman named Natalie, who was rescued Wednesday morning, almost 8 days after the 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit Haiti.
So we decided together to work in order to bring out the people who was inside.
Bruno Bisson, a search and rescue team leader from Sauveteurs Sans Frontières, was working on the site from midnight the night before. He said that all the search and rescue teams are like a big family coming together to help people after a catastrophe.
Team with Haitian team and also American teams. We are in Zarag is a very big family. This big family is here to help people after a big catastrophe. We found one girl, and she was trapped.
The crowd gathered at the market was described as jubilant when Natalie was pulled from the rubble and transported to a hospital. Louis from the French SAR team added that after working all day, we find someone alive is the best present one can receive.
Je fais ce que je fais pour des moments comme ça avec Nathalie après 7 jours. On a un contact et on arrive à sortir une vie. Une vie, c'est le plus beau cadeau du monde. On ne peut pas trouver mieux, on ne peut pas faire mieux. Voilà.
On the same day, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that international search and rescue teams rescued 4 more lives, including a 22-day-old baby and a 3-year-old child. As of 20 January, over 121 people have been rescued.
I think about my girls. I am a dad, you know, and for me it's very important to make the maximum to pick up out the ground this girl and to give a little part of life. The best moment for me, it's after 12 hours of work, it's an emergence of the lady.
The rescue efforts in these affected areas of Haiti are coordinated by the International Search and Rescue Advisory Group, which is a global network of more than 80 countries and disaster response organizations under the United Nations. As the logistical challenges that have hampered the relief effort in Haiti begin to get ironed out, some of the injured have been brought to the Dominican Republic. The Dario Contreras Hospital in Santo Domingo is the city's primary care center. Staff there have been mobilized to treat Haitians, especially children, who have been suffering from injuries sustained in last week's devastating earthquake.
Varios niños, no se decirte totalmente la cantidad, porque no tengo ese total, pero varios niños con varias fracturas y heridas traumáticas.
The children at the hospital range in age from 1 month to 14 years.
y es que han llegado niños sin padres y que todavía son lactantes, necesitan de la leche materna para poder continuar viviendo. Y ha habido mujeres que se han prestado para lactar a esos niños. Y actualmente tenemos una serie de madres dominicanas que han prestado sus senos y su leche materna para alimentar a esos niños, que es un gesto de mucha solidaridad.
Hospitals along the border, particularly in the town of Himani, have been inundated with Haitians seeking treatment for trauma, crash injuries, and exhaustion. These facilities say that they simply do not have the capacity to treat all of these patients and the growing demand, so they're brought here to facilities in Santo Domingo, the Dario Contreras Hospital. They hope to have safe space for all children under 5 in Port-au-Prince by the end of the week. Site Soleil is one of the poorest, most troubled neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince. The cities were controlled by warlords until United Nations peacekeepers liberated it from gangs in 2008. The slums here are grim in the best of times, and now locals find themselves sleeping on the street, their homes crushed from last week's earthquake. Thousands are buried beneath rubble. Marie-Louise Philippe is a quake survivor. There are concerns that with the escape of 3,000 prisoners from the penitentiary during the earthquake, that some gang members may try to reestablish themselves here. Security patrols are a standard procedure for peacekeeping operations, but they are particularly important at this time of heightened insecurity, poverty, and uncertainty, according to one Brazilian peacekeeper.
Realizamos patrulhamento motorizado e a pé, com o intuito de manter o ambiente seguro e estável, e além de ações cívico-sociais, com o intuito também de aproximar a população, e ajudar dentro do possível no que a gente pode.
Maintaining security is key to the humanitarian aid efforts. Reports of looting and violent crime are up in the capital following the earthquake. On Tuesday, the Security Council authorized an additional 3,500 police officers and troops to the peacekeeping mission to support recovery, reconstruction, and stability. Last week's earthquake took the lives of the UN's chief deputy and police force commander. The Brazilian peacekeeping contingent alone lost 22%, and the Haitian National Police are crippled at only 50% capacity following infrastructure damage and heavy casualties. 13 days following a 7.0 magnitude earthquake that struck Haiti, tens of thousands of bodies remain buried beneath the rubble and in massive graves around the capital, Port-au-Prince. As each day passes, the dead keep coming. Precious few of the quake victims are receiving proper burials. Other uncollected bodies have been burned in the streets. It is impossible to know how many victims are buried in mass graves.
Les premières 24 heures, il était difficile parce que, comme vous l'aviez vu, les morts jonchaient les rues, jonchaient un petit peu les avenues partout. Donc la troisième journée, on a demandé aux populations de rassembler les corps devant les cimetières ou bien devant des églises, la cathédrale de Port-au-Prince, le Sacré-Cœur, l'église Saint-Louis-Ouat-France, des églises qui elles-mêmes avaient été touchées. C'est ce qui nous a permis non seulement de compter les morts, c'est ce qui nous a permis de les récupérer et justement de les enterrer, notamment dans des cimetières dans lesquels on a pu prévoir un espace comme le cimetière de Port-au-Prince, le cimetière de Pétionville, etc. Et c'est à partir de là qu'on peut parler aujourd'hui de 150 000 morts.
Shallow graves may allow family members to eventually go back and try to retrieve those loved ones, but by now they are unrecognizable. Red Cross officials are encouraging authorities to fill out forms that include taking photographs of jewelry and marks on the body that may identify the person.
Dans ce genre de situation, il y a toujours une marge. Il y a toujours une marge. Mais on pense qu'on saura, parce que là, on sait déjà. Maintenant, il faudra réconcilier les chiffres des mairies, de la CNE, et puis les familles.
Lescue is confident that Haitian authorities will eventually arrive at a final count. This Haitian gravedigger working at a cemetery in Port-au-Prince said that most graves can only hold up to 3 bodies. Currently, cemeteries remain overflowing, and there are still random bodies reported to be piling up in the various parts of Port-au-Prince. At a golf course in Pétionville, where thousands of displaced Haitians live in camps without access to toilets and basic food supplies and water, some have started small businesses to survive. The International Organization for Migration says that there are more than 500 tents in this area, and they can hold up to 20,000 people.
Our estimates are about 500 camps, larger camps. When I say larger, I'm talking about 50 people, the smallest, and then the largest between 15 and 20,000.
In Pétionville, however, there are about 60,000 people living in overcrowded camps. Some of them have started small businesses such as hairdressing, cell phone charging, and managing small businesses in search of normalcy amidst this humanitarian crisis.
Tout ça me dégaine, tout ça là, ça me dégaine, tout crasé. Juste, bon, finalement, pas de monde qui gagne dans mes yeux. C'est profession m'oblige m'obliger faire là parce que tout le monde a toujours fait beauté, tout autant que la vie, a bien beauté, vous comprenez?
Many remain concerned about the prospects of living out of tents for an extended period of time. Humanitarian agencies like IOM and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs are increasing their concerns about managing these camps and setting up temporary housing for the 800,000 to 1 million displaced people in Haiti. So far, there are 591 improvised settlements with approximately 692,000 displaced people in the Port-au-Prince region alone.
This is the emergency phase. We have the reconstruction phase afterwards. And so this donors meeting and this meeting in Montreal on Monday, the donors meeting which is not scheduled yet but should be in March, these are important windows where we must get the funding to make sure that those tent cities don't become a reality or a part of the landscape in Haiti.
IOM is expecting a shipment of about 40,000 more tents to arrive in the coming days. They're expected to accommodate 200,000 people. Despite massive logistical changes since the earthquake struck, the World Food Program has delivered more than 3.6 million rations, the equivalent of almost 11 million meals, to nearly 460,000 people. Although the overall security situation is generally calm, several incidents at sites throughout the city have hampered distributions in the past few days.
This is the most complex emergency WP has ever launched. We're faced with enormous logistical challenges. Haiti's entire supply chain infrastructure has been devastated. Yet our logistics machine is operating at full speed. We're streaming in food assistance through 5 humanitarian corridors around the country, and we've already delivered 3 million rations, which is the equivalent of 10 million meals to earthquake victims.
All cargo transport took place in convoys. They've had to keep an eye on everything.
Security remains a major concern in and around Port-au-Prince, but we're working very closely with MINUSTA and the U.S. military to ramp up security at all our distribution points.
This week, 3 WFP contractor helicopters will be operational in Haiti, and nearly 75 trucks are also due to arrive. Governments around the world so far have donated more than $180 million toward the World Food Program's emergency program to feed 2 million people, while providing logistical and communication support for a 5-month emergency operation. Thousands of inmates fled Haiti's main prison after buildings collapsed during the earthquake on 13 January, and they have posed a threat to security in this battered island nation. Officials say Prison Civil de Port-au-Prince had been burned down by the prisoners after the earthquake in an attempt to destroy prison records. With the capital in such a vulnerable state, there was some concern that escapees may return to areas like Site Soleil and try to form gangs. But locals like Ider Philippe say the prisoners had no choice but to escape as the prison came crashing down on them.
Prisonniers si moun j'avais nous tout. Si y a tombé sur yo, yo gen tout droit yo. Maintenant c'est devoir autorité yo konya pe connait qui ça fait pour yo pour un criminel yo ben là dans situation ça va gen. Ba gen moun là qui en dedans là, c'est faut jugement faire en dedans. Faut sauver pour yo tout. Si me de là tout ça me fait.
Prisons in Haiti function as preventive detention for men accused of crimes and waiting on trial. Inmates have to endure dire conditions in overcrowded cells where diseases like tuberculosis and chronic malnutrition are rampant. A spokesman for the UN mission in Haiti, MINUSTA, says they worked with the Haitian government to promote a better justice system and to improve human rights for prisoners. Danielle Boivet, the acting chief of MINUSTA's correction unit, said that more than 80% of the inmates had never been convicted.
So we can't establish that they were in fact criminals. What we can say is that amongst them there were a number of criminals who had been convicted and were serving their sentences.
According to MINUSTA, some 5,100 prisoners escaped, and so far 36 have been recaptured in Laquais and Jacmel. They were not among escapees that had been sentenced, but it is believed that the dismantled gangs will regroup.
They were obviously gang members that were in prison, and it's quite possible that they're finding themselves in the same neighborhoods at this point. But I can't speak as to whether or not that's a fact or not.
United States and UN officials plan on building areas to house the recaptured inmates. It'll most likely happen outside of the capital. Medical facilities in Haiti continue to see thousands of cases of infections and crush injuries, leading to an increased number of amputees. They are in dire need of crutches and prosthetics. The World Health Organization estimated that there are up to 2,000 amputees in Haiti, and the number keeps going up. Many of the amputees suffer from infections in addition to the crushing injuries. Minote Duverseau, an amputee, says she begged her doctor not to remove her leg. Now she fears that she will be of no use to her family or society.
C'est tout problème ça te gen pour moi parce que moi me perdu un pied. Activité me capable faire m'pas capable faire encore. Moi c'est un monde qui va chita en côté, c'est un monde qui va aller mariner simplement pour aller lutter avec moi à Timonio. Va chita.
Many Haitians like Duverseau are coping with the trauma of such severe, life-changing injuries. The Haitian government estimated that there are about 200,000 people who sustained injuries from the 12 January earthquake. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that there are currently 150 health facilities operational in Port-au-Prince, but only 46 have surgical capacity. There is a critical need for orthopedic surgeons and x-ray equipment to deal with the increasing number of amputees. Ruth Dugan from Handicap International said there's also an increasing need for rehabilitation service.
Handicap International is working with a few other groups to put together a rehabilitation hospital and also to put together a prosthetic shop, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks, sooner if possible. And then we'll start fitting prostheses for people who are unable to walk, for upper limb amputations.
Hospitals run by Médecins Sans Frontières, the International Federation Red Cross and Red Crescent, the U.S. Health and Services Department, and the U.S. Navy say that they're caring for about 40,000 patients, out of whom almost 2,000 have undergone surgery. As schools in other provinces in Haiti reopen today, students of Port-au-Prince's Daniel Fignol High School, one of 8,000 schools damaged by the earthquake, still grieve their deceased classmates and teachers. They're also struggling with the traumatic memories of being in a classroom again. Louis Monteport is the director of the Daniel Fignol School.
Nous pas gagné qui mourit dans l'établissement, peut-être ailleurs, mais pour élèves nous gagnons environ 700 qui mourit.
Daniel Fignol High School once stood tall amidst violence and despair in the city's Bel Air neighborhood. 6 years ago in this neighborhood, demonstrations took place demanding the return of Haiti's ousted president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Today, the neighborhood's displaced people hang out by the school's destroyed facade. Many have started seeking shelter in the school next door that still remains unscathed, reducing any hope of reopening its doors to students. The UN reported that schools serving up to 1.8 million children in the city have been destroyed. In fact, all schools on the western side of the city have been completely destroyed, while 40% in the south remain severely damaged. The UN is now calling for at least 4,000 temporary classrooms to accommodate the children in the city.
Nous pas cap quitter année à perdu. Bien que bâtiment est détruit, mais il y a possibilité pour nous construire tant pour nous faire timonio.
Many of the children who had survived the earthquake are still in shock after losing many of their friends and classmates. When the earthquake struck, 3 classes were in session, and an estimated 700 students are suspected to be dead. Many survivors still harbor fears of even being in the classroom again. The UN helped to refurbish the 16-classroom school and revitalize its neighborhood after it closed down in 2004 due to political strife resulting from Aristide's departure. The rain began falling in Haiti just 2 days ago, and a new wave of fear may be spreading among the survivors of last month's earthquake. Demonstrations like this one are happening in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Angry Haitians say that they have nowhere to sleep because their streets are soaked with rain. A demonstrator said their conditions are rough. The Caribbean hurricane season is just a few months away, and the rainy season begins early in Haiti, with downpours heavy enough to cause landslides and enough water to bring disease. Ruth Distill is a mother of 2 children who have been sick since the day of the earthquake. Her tent is soaked with rain, and she doesn't even have a place to take care of them.
Quand la pluie se tombe, on met l'enfant se mord, mais je viens pas ici, mais ce n'est pas la part. Je n'ai pas le prélat pour préparer les enfants.
Aid agencies say the top priority is to bring hazard-resistant shelter, which can withstand rains and even hurricanes. But officials say there are nearly 750,000 people who have not received basic shelter like tents and plastic tarps. Around 50 people in this camp have left to ask for more tents. Jude Cadet also survived the deadly quake. Experts say the chief concern is how these makeshift tents and camps where more than 500,000 people are now living through Port-au-Prince will hold up. Conditions in the camp are already vulnerable, and with the rain they could deteriorate further. The UN says that of the estimated 1 million homeless, about 250,000 have received temporary or medium-term shelter. Haiti has the highest tuberculosis rate in the Americas, and health experts say that the numbers may rise. Since last month's earthquake, TB patients have had their treatment disrupted and now could become more infectious. Many are living in the camps. Health officials are scrambling to get those infected back into treatment, finding newly infected patients as fast as they can. Dr. Megan Coffey works with infectious disease.
We're standing next to the tuberculosis tent. And it's very important with all these people who are not living in their normal homes, either living in tents or moving to different cities, that they have continuity in their TB care and that patients who have new TB infections found are treated. There's a great risk if there's any disruptions in this that they could either become infectious or they could develop resistance if they take different amounts of their medications, they miss weeks, they take some other times. So it's important to have the infrastructure built up.
Outside Port-au-Prince General Hospital, dozens of international and Haitian doctors are busy treating patients in tents alongside international volunteers. Dr. Coffey says treatment is a priority.
We're really getting all these patients connected in order to get the treatment they need. It's not that there's a new rise of cases after the earthquake. It's more that it's a very prevalent disease here, and it's something that should always have attention placed on it, that there are enough people with tuberculosis that we should make sure that we always continue to have as a priority to treat them.
There are roughly 30,000 new cases of tuberculosis each year in Haiti. The World Health Organization says it is the country's most common killer behind AIDS. With video from UN and MINUSTA crews on the ground in Port-au-Prince, I'm Tim King reporting for SalemNews.com.